This is Lindsay Ellis. She is an author and content creator that is often known online as somebody that's been treated unfairly for having principled beliefs. Maybe an uncharitable, but I think more accurate reading of this is, she was once a Twitter addict that couldn't resist putting her foot in her mouth when arguing with random people on the platform. She was a founder of the BreadTube genre here on YouTube, catering her online personality to progressives, giving her the privilege of being cancelled over racism because she compared Raya the Last Dragon to Avatar the Last Airbender. And as unfair as this sounds, I believe the torment that Lindsay has suffered through her career is to a great extent self-inflicted. So in this video, we're going to take a look at her career and her controversies.
Hi, I'm your nostalgia chick. I remember it because the dudes don't.
Lindsay got her start online 18 years ago with the wonderful autism magnet that is Channel Awesome, winning a competition to be a spin-off of The Nostalgia Critic. This led to Lindsay taking the role of the Nostalgia Chick, where she would do what was expected of Channel Awesome at the time, that being pretty basic recap style reviews of nostalgic content with jokes peppered in. Over time, she got her own cast, she even acquired a female Linkara, and she developed her own style. From early on, she would take a feminist angle to her critique, and talk more on film theory, even doing episodes that would discuss topics rather than just a review of one piece of media. And this is coming from someone that doesn't like her, okay? She did at least kind of earn her air of arrogance. Yes, I do roll my eyes hearing some of her more virtuous takes, but for the time, the quality of the content wasn't that bad, and you could tell she put in a lot of hard work.
You know what, guys? I'm sorry. I'm calling it.
What the? Oh, here we go.
But Pocahontas is ready. With a dramatic pose.
Yeah. But in 2015, Lindsay left Channel Awesome, deleted all of her nostalgic content from her YouTube, and went on to refuse to speak their name.
If you're wondering, oh wow, your nostalgia chick videos have mostly disappeared. Yeah, about that. Basically, I want to consider this channel a new era, and anything that is affiliated with certain former affiliates, I don't really want on this channel. The channel that shall not be named. Because I used to work for this website that I won't name.
Spoilers, she's going to bring them up many times. Which brings us to the era of the Lindsay Ellis video essay. And with the shame of her past still freshly echoing in her memory, she ditched all of her whimsical bits and replaced them with opening bottles of alcohol. But she wasn't a hack. Just again, going back to watch it, I'd find myself rolling my eyes.
Diegesis is quite simply all of the elements that exist in the universe. Calling something non-diegetic most commonly refers to the film's score.
I'm a huge fan. I believe in media literacy.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up, Dan. One thing I'm just baffled by, I don't mean this as a cutting critique, honestly it's impressive, that Lindsay found such a large market of people that will watch her apply the ideas of the dialectic of enlightenment on the Transformers movies.
This makes Marxist theoretical frameworks particularly of interest to film theorists, and especially relevant to the Transformers movies. We'll get to that.
Who are these people watching this? Let me just say whilst we're here, it is funny seeing ContraPoints appear doing a cameo, wearing a big anti-fascist sticker on their shirt, talking about all the different types of Marxism you can learn about.
Analytic Marxists, your postmodern neo-Marxists, you gotta read Khrushchev.
Then you flash to the current day and they're like, aren't leftists really fucking annoying? Well, you're not getting any sympathy from me. And you know what, nowadays I see the most horrible people getting mad over lefties that I almost feel incentivized to try to tackle some Adorno. Anyway, I want to try to give a fair critique to Lindsay's video essay work. I do on occasion watch more obscure, hard to understand films, and sometimes if something really interests me, I'll go on YouTube to see if I can find people talking about it. And I find it fun to be a bit in the dark of what people's takes are going to be or what they're going to pick up on in the films. So the problem I find with Lindsay's content: 1, she's a Disney adult and all the stuff she covers doesn't interest me. And 2, and far more importantly, it's all from the lens of her worldview. It's predictable. This affirmation of my worldview through media criticism has got so overwhelmingly popular, and despite it being one-dimensional, to many it's considered the gold standard. And I think that people, maybe even unintentionally, use this content as a Trojan horse just to get that fuzzy feeling of having their worldviews affirmed. So Lindsay's involvement with Channel Awesome is a source of embarrassment for her, and to be fair, if you want to have a much more serious online persona, then it is kind of understandable. But Lindsay doesn't just feel a shame for her past work, she feels a hatred for Channel Awesome. And this becomes very clear looking at her entry to the Change the Channel document. But first I must shout out Nettles because he's found some pretty interesting information surrounding this that I doubt I would have found myself. We have no affiliation, but his coverage of the document does seem pretty good. And as for Lindsay, her entry to this document is shameful. This is her listing some gripes she had with Channel Awesome in 2018, so 4 years after she left the company. Around this time she'd have been writing her Marxist analysis of the Transformers series. And the first thing she decides to talk about is surrounding the filming of Kick-Ass Here, a feature film-length collaboration between the Channel Awesome team. Her point surrounding this is that when she asked her logical question about the plan for craft services, she was not taken seriously, and it wasn't until Noah, a man, asked the same question that the idea was given any attention. But some behind the scenes footage got released, so let's take a look at that quickly.
Mainly water. I would go to the store, just get your own.
I'm gonna get like
big
two
thing of
huge
water.
things.
He's gonna bring some water as well, but bring backups anyway, because we were out there for just a few hours. Our throats. We were out there for 2 hours. My head started to get sunburned. There was like not a single cloud in the sky. And we literally were just, and it was cold, like there was a cold wind, and Doug and I got in the car and was just like, I feel like I've been walking through the desert. Lindsay.
Coffee?
Will there be coffee? Instant coffee? We'll see about that. I don't think they're going to want coffee, trust me, because it's going to make you dehydrated.
No, but coffee.
Good, as in at the place. I would advise getting coffee at breakfast myself.
Coffee in the restaurant.
No, like, well, I don't know, I've never...
Can you formulate a proper question?
What are you about?
Coffee keeps you alive?
She was referring more to a craft services table where it's a coffee machine.
Okay, call me crazy. Yes, maybe Spoonie did have to ask the question for it to be taken seriously, but I don't think it was because of sexism. I think it was because Lindsay was unable to form a sentence. And this became such a talking point for her that sickly goblin Dan Olsen was more than ready to bring this up in a conversation they had together.
How were craft services on those sets?
Yeah, I'm not gonna name any names here, but I've been on some sets.
Oh, look at him finishing her sentences. They've got such chemistry. Is there something there? Oh, I guess not. Better luck next time. Oh. Back to the document. When they shot what you can see on screen here, Lindsay criticised them for not hiring stunt people. And when she says that her suggestions were met with disdain and that there was a elitist, anti-intellectual attitude to the team, it does make me question that she could have potentially just been really annoying. She talks about how uncomfortable she was in one scene that she shot for them because it was an extended ape joke. Which, yeah, I could understand why she'd be uncomfortable with that, especially if she was pressured into it. But Channel Awesome released logs of Lindsay and Doug talking. Doug is here considering cutting the scene, and Lindsay is here giving him the go-ahead for leaving it in. Maybe the alcoholism has distorted her memories so she can't correctly recall them, or if that's not the case, she's very willing to lie to smear Doug. And yeah, there's another case regarding Dan Olsen that I think she misrepresented as well. More on that in this video. But yeah, with hindsight, this is just flat out dishonest smearing of a company that she was embarrassed to have worked with. Shortly after this, Lindsay wrote this long post about how she only worked for Channel Awesome because of the economy and because she was desperate for a job. So feel sorry for her, guys. Instead of working some depressing, stressful, low-paying job, she was exploited into making internet comedy videos with her friends. Lindsay, I am so sorry this happened to you. Also in 2018, Lindsay got in an argument with someone called Russian Hacker on Twitter and ended up antagonizing them by making jokes about white genocide. This led to a cancellation campaign against Lindsay, which I think is ridiculous. So something she doesn't actually say out loud in the talk that I noticed later on is that the first tweet is, "We anti-whites are coming for you, Russian hacker. We know where you live." And obviously this is a joke. I'm not outraged by this, but there does come a point where you can't act all surprised when people start getting upset. reframe this joke very slightly and aim it at Lindsay, and it becomes a source of her trauma. But this was such a big deal for her that when she was invited to XOXO Festival, she decided to make this the topic of her talk.
Like, I have an assistant who handles my YouTube comments. It's awful. She feel bad for her. And there's another thing. This is not the first time this has happened to me, and it probably won't be the last.
Hey, you see, the lesson that she learns from this is that when people are being attacked online, you shouldn't address it and you should just overflow their online presence with positivity. And that's not a bad message to send out, but I feel like Lindsay should have learned something from this experience. Yes, you can talk about and joke about whatever you want, but maybe there's better things you could be doing than endlessly virtue signaling about white people on Twitter. And after this, Lindsay still spent her time online scolding people, telling them where they should and shouldn't work. And this is an old one, but still. If I make one sincere contribution, white people, please stop sharing your contributions on Blackout Tuesday. This isn't about you, no one cares. Lindsay? Did you Michael Jackson yourself and just not tell us? And there's this one. My favourite thing about these old Godzilla movies is seeing white people be disposable objects in the way POC always are in Hollywood movies. I'd love to see Lindsay do a bit more film analysis on this actually. One thing I'm curious about is these funny looking white people in the Godzilla movie. But surprisingly enough, it wasn't the uptight right-wingers that gave Lindsay the toughest time about her Twitter antics. You see, Lindsay's getting on a bit, and her ideal media representation of progressivism would be like a wealthy, well-educated white woman in a courtroom or something, laying down the law. Oh, isn't Hillary Clinton cool actually type of thing? But what Lindsay wasn't prepared for was a new wave of progressivism. Now they want to see a trans, disabled, queer person of colour lawyer. So when she tweeted out, also watched Raya the Last Dragon, and I think we need to come up with a name for this genre that is basically Avatar the Last Airbender reduxes. It's like half of all YA fantasy published in the last 2 years anyway. This time Zuko's a girl. She didn't think that it would be the woke Twitter mob that would cause her such a huge problem. You see, she compared two Asian looking things with each other. This upset this progressive crowd, and Lindsay decided to keep tweeting about it. Actually, I can see where if you squint, whoops, it's safe to say Lindsay's comment filtering assistant got a raise and a lot of overtime in 2021. Well, that would be until she decided to stop posting on Twitter or YouTube. But well, with YouTube she couldn't help herself. She had to defend her honour in the only way that she knew possible, to make an hour and 40-minute long video essay.
So last week, I was in a restaurant in North Carolina, and we were sitting at the bar, and the owner was sitting right there because they were about to close, and my mother starts talking to her.
Yes, it's far too long for what it is, so we're just going to give you the highlights. She feels the need to talk about the whole history of the word cancelled and why Twitter is an outrage farm, true video essay bloat.
Cancel culture was the diagnosis, and the term became a catch-all defense for those trying to evade public criticism of any kind. But now, cancel is just another word that white people have taken and run into the ground.
That's good, she finds some opportunities to blame the whites in there as well. But let's get into the main argument.
Are you ready to see why mommy's cancelled?
You are not a mother figure, you have breakdowns over Twitter comments.
Now, before we go forward, it must be acknowledged that being any person of color in the United States right now is just to be constantly worn down. There are issues both in the film industry and the culture at large that is making people hyper-vigilant. I'm not going to follow that with a however, I just want to lay that groundwork and acknowledge that.
So we have acknowledged the plight of POC in the West, and I can't blame this on the left being crazy because that would give the anti-SJWs a win. So, who to blame? Oh, the whites. Yes, the whites.
Of course!
Part 3. White nonsense.
Those goddamn whiteys. See, white people just use POC voice as a mouthpiece for their attack. So white progressives often cite black voices sort of as a weapon to give their arguments more weight. Now, to strengthen my point, look at what this black saying that I found. Look at my half-Asian friend that agrees with me too, right?
I have to be in mind in the defense of a typically...
She does some more self-deprecating whiteness stuff, and she says that she comes from a white trash family.
So I'm not gonna waste my breath on the I'm not a racist line of defense. I'm a white woman from Tennessee. My family is mostly uneducated white trash. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I didn't internalize any of that. I'm special.
She says this, but she consistently acts like she's special. She is an enlightened one. And by saying her family's uneducated white trash, I think it's clear there was a time that she decided she's smarter than the rest of her family, and that continued on to how she views the whole world. And to be fair to her, people did start going through her old work to try to find more reasons to cancel her. It's pathetic. I do genuinely hope for the world that a lot of these people were just trolls and not genuine culture warriors. So yeah, they pulled up this, which I think is actually a genuinely quite comical image. And remember that white people using POC as a mouthpiece for their arguments is a big no-no, okay?
So at the time, mind strangers.
Yeah, well, an Arab told me it was fine. She does acknowledge that in her worldview now, this is wrong and apologizes for it. So why, after saying that it's bad to use POC as a mouthpiece, talk about your neighbour at all? She talks about some dumb fanfic drama, and her rebuttal to that is,
Usually I don't hurt.
I think it goes without saying, to be fair, but you can see why the anti-SJW crowd absolutely loved this. Like, Lindsay is saying there are these white women that are very online, that think they are very smart and are incredibly uptight, that for some reason think it's their place to be telling people what is and what isn't acceptable. And aren't people like this really annoying? Well, I've made my point. No analysis needed. Let's move on. One thing that haunts Lindsay's past is her ape rap. Now, I'm not going to question her story, okay? But it does need to be pointed out, Lindsay's willing to show all the context for the niqab video, but for this one, she just gives a description, leaving her room to lie about the content of what's in the video.
The joke is that my friend Brian, playing a rapping sexual predator, says horrible things to me online because woman, and I try to get him not to say these things.
The whole thing is on the Internet Archive. You can just go and look at it and see that this isn't what the video is about. I wanted to make a video about how it's hard being a woman on the internet. Is it really worth lying about this to fit this into your narrative? Like, if it wasn't an obvious lie, I wouldn't be bringing this up now. Anyone that can follow that simple line of logic is probably going to have a lot easier time on the internet than Lindsay is.
Well, basically it was because that most of the YA fantasy that I had read, because those were, the big names that, I had to read to be hep to the jive.
Lindsay. Hep to the jive, Lindsay. You're actually just going to appropriate AAVE whilst making an apology video, Lindsay. Ding, ding, ding. Put it on the Lindsay's cancelled list. And I'm not being sympathetic for Lindsay here, but it must have been hard for her to have been that gal that could tell people what's wrong and what's right. She could have sat there from her throne and said, how about we revive Twilight? She's a strong woman author that we should actually respect. Like me. Well, no, Lindsay. Actually, Twilight's racist, and you're racist as well. It must be hard for her to cope with, but this post that she wrote for her Patreon after making this video still is incredibly melodramatic. This is her post, walking away from Omelas. I had planned to move content to Nebula, but I realise now that doing that is just keeping the wounds wide open. My life ended 9 months ago. What has been taking up bandwidth ever since then has been a ghost. It's almost funny how many people will insist that I have lost nothing. Because subscriber count is the only metric for success, and cancel culture doesn't exist. One YouTube channel chugging along on algorithmic inertia is not success. It's just an engine driving on fumes. Many will say this is being melodramatic, that my life isn't over, that there was absolutely nothing stopping me from brushing myself off, building back up my goodwill and shutting up and playing the game. And I tried that. In a way, I suppose it's good that I did, because I needed to learn the hard way that this was never going to work. There is no unfucking this. You can't find the energy if there's nothing left to convert it. You can't be a better person if you are nothing but a hollow shell of one. The fact that she wrote this after saying this in Mask Off.
God, they love it when the left eats their own, and why wouldn't they? It's hilarious when your political enemies tear each other apart. I mean, to reiterate, these people have been trying to take me down for years. Keep trying, boys.
I think the liquid courage was really helping her through that video. And nowadays, this is how she talks about it.
In your case, I think the uncharitable perspective would be your audience was a woke mob, and the moment they had something they could attack, of course, the woke mob could turn on you.
Oh, I've seen that so many times, and it's just absolutely infuriating. Like, because it was not my audience. Like, it was absolutely not my audience that started it. Or because I didn't lose any subscribers. I gained patrons. Like, you know, these were not my people.
So these weren't her people, and she gained dedicated supporters from this situation. So just what's the problem here? A bunch of kooks made some mean tweets saying you are problematic. My theory is that her team of people that she's hired to work with her are all probably submissive yes men types, and she has thousands of Patreons that all adore her, and this is the world that she lives in. Obviously she fights the chuds all the time, that is just part of her world as well. But I think living in the world surrounded by the consistently submissive yes men that will always give you praise is something that could be really damaging to someone's psyche. Over time, I think it can weaken someone and make them more vulnerable to something like this, so they can get bludgeoned by a few people being mean to them online. Now, yeah, it's not noble, but I do think the best thing she could have done for herself would have been to just sweep it up. Maybe this is a terrible take to have for commentary, but just delete the post, block a few people, and pretend it didn't happen. But there's this character trait that I've noticed that she has, making it impossible for her to do this. And I think it's to do with her signposting her intrusive thoughts. When she doesn't want anyone to talk about Channel Awesome, she says the thing that won't be named. She puts these little beeped sections in her mask off video to be like, don't ask me about that. But this is like perversely inviting discussion. Just write the video in a different way. You think all these unhinged creeps are genuinely dangerous to your career, and then you incite the name of Jenny Nicholson multiple times throughout the video.
It's next. Jenny, you're next. Jenny next. Jenny next. Jenny next.
None of these tweets had over 10 likes. This was a search to fuel her histrionic spiral. So just stop bringing things up that you don't want to talk about, especially in ways that invite discussion.
Zero context.
Call your fans freaks.
That's what Big Joel does.
Oh, wow.
They love it.
Big Joel does it.
Yeah, he does it. They love him. He is a man. He can get away with everything.
Oh wow, I hadn't considered that.
Unless he insinuates that certain internet people are conservative, then.
Let's get back to the book.
Stop mentioning it. And this is in reference to her friend, Big Joel, off the back of Dan's wall critique video, deciding to shoehorn Nostalgia Critic into his conservative comedy video.
Around a year ago now, I had the idea to make a shot-for-shot remake of the Nostalgia Critic review of The Wizard, the 1989 Nintendo product placement film.
Why did this freak get allowed in the house, but Quentin didn't? But now, she's far less online, she's written books, and she only makes content on Nebula. This is a platform with a subscription model similar to Netflix, but it's for content creators, such as Lindsay and ContraPoints and the like. I haven't ever paid for it, but I have watched the first episode of Amy's Dead End Dream House, a children's show for adults, because it's on YouTube. I don't want to rip into this too hard, because I appreciate someone doing something out of the ordinary online. Like, instead of playing it safe and doing more video essays, creating an episodic TV show should be applauded. But this show stinks.
Are you tired of playing with boring old lava lamps? Lava lamps you can't even smash open and drink? Well, your wait is over! Introducing drinkable lava lamps. The first lava lamp you can drink.
Just a bit sad, really. But anyway, Nebula is a lefty-ing group, and Lindsay seems to have quite a lot of influence as to who gets involved with it.
Where the creators that I talk to, the creators we bring in, are the creators that our creators bring to me. Many of our most diverse creators were people that you sent my way. People that you're like, hey, you should talk to this person, let me do an intro, or you should reach out to this guy. There's all these great people where I didn't have to do a bunch of research and figure out, is this person a toxic shitbird? They're socially validated to a level already.
This may be a good business practice for their target audience, but knowing all these creators have the social validation of Lindsay Ellis and her crowd is a huge turn-off for me. And with all that, I'm not going to pay to watch whatever shit Lindsay has put on there. I had this bit I was quite happy about regarding all these obnoxiously virtuous Nebula creators being oddly quiet about Israel. They may well hurt a few Numol in the process, but the Axioms were promised land from their alien god 3 millennia ago.
Alien cyborg who may or may not have done a little bit of genocide.
But on Lindsay's Blue Sky, she recently commented on rewatching Schindler's List for a video that she's working on. So I must wait patiently before commenting any further on the topic, because something that I say could become retrospectively foolish. To say something positive about Lindsay, I do believe she would be willing to rock the boat if she felt necessary. I'm just hoping she dusts off the nostalgia chick character for one last time.